Jesus basically says that one of the 12 would betray him.
Yep.
And then he tells them that the one who he dips bread and gives to will betray him. And then he gives it to Judas. So it seems pretty clear to me that, he's showing Judas is the one who's going to betray me. But then he tells Judas to do what he must, or to do it quickly. But the disciples seem like they're confused as to what he's talking about. Why don't they understand?
Because you're reading it as an outsider, you're reading it as a narrative, and the details have been filled in for you because you've already been told before John 13, Judas is the betrayer. In the light of 2,000 years of Christian tradition, you know who the betrayer is, right?
Right.
So if you go to John 6:64, let me walk you through this, because this is the problem when we read the Bible. We don't put ourselves in the story and see it from their perspective. You are an outsider. You have a bird's eye view of the narrative. You already know the end before you even get there, right? You know the end from the beginning.
Yeah, hindsight's 20/20.
That's the whole point. So you got to not read it from that perspective. You got to put yourself, and this is what people need to do. Honestly, they need to do this. And I tell people, put yourself in the story, put yourself in the shoes of the apostles, and see how you react if these events are unfolding for the first time before your eyes, instead of reading it from a bird's eye view with 2,000 years of church tradition behind it.
Right.
So now go to John 6:64 and read what we're told. So the narrator's already prepared you that Judas is the betrayer, right? But read John 6:64.
Jesus, but among you there are some who do not believe. For Jesus knew from the first who were the ones that did not believe and who was the one that would betray him.
Now read John 6:70-71.
Jesus answered them, did I not choose you, the 12? Yet one of you is a devil. He was speaking of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, for he, though one of the 12, was going to betray him.
So you have the cheat sheet. Long before you get to John 13, you've already been told who the betrayer is, right?
Yeah.
And then if you go to John 12, read verses 1-11. Let's focus on verse 6. John 12, verses 1-11. Watch here. Watch, I'm showing you how not to read the narrative, because you're reading it with a bird's eye view. And not only that, the authors already told you the end from the beginning, because they've already told you who the betrayer is. And you already know that before you get to the end, Jesus will be killed, buried, and be raised to life, right?
Right.
But do you think they knew this as these events are unfolding before their eyes?
Definitely not, yeah.
All right, now read John 12, verses 1-11, and focus on verse 6.
Where Mary anoints Jesus?
Yeah, well, just read it, brother. I love you. Not the subheadings. The subheadings are not inspired.
Right. 6 days before the Passover, Jesus came to Bethany, the house of Lazarus, whom he had raised from the dead. There they gave a dinner for him. Martha served, and Lazarus was one of those at the table with him. Mary took a pound of costly perfume made of pure nard, anointed Jesus' feet, and wiped them with her hair. The house was filled with fragrance of the perfume. But Judas Iscariot, one of the disciples, the one who was about to betray him, said, why was...
So you see, he's already told you again, huh?
Yeah.
Now, when John wrote this, do you think John knew that when these events unfolded?
When he wrote it?
Yeah, I mean, no. When John wrote this, do you think he knew this when the events were unfolding before his eyes, not writing after the fact?
I see what you're saying. No, he did not.
But now he does, right? Hindsight 20/20. He's writing after the fact, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so now finish it. Keep reading.
Said, why was this perfume not sold for 300 denarii and the money given to the poor? He said this not because he cared about the poor, but because he was a thief. He kept the common purse, and you steal what was put into it.
So he's a thief on top of that. Now, you think John knew that at that time when this was happening?
No, because he can't read hearts or anything like that. So.
Thank you. And yet Jesus knew he was a thief. Jesus knew he'd betray him, and Jesus knew he was of the devil, and yet Jesus still loved him, provided for him, cared for him, and empowered him to do a ministry of miracles, and never once exposed him and shamed him, and remained faithful in his love for him till the very end. Now, with that said, now let's go back to John 13.
Okay. Verse 2, the devil had already put it into the heart of Judas, son of Simon Iscariot, to betray him.
So even before the end of the chapter, you're told Judas has already been prompted by the devil. Now, someone asked me, was Judas in control of his decision, or was he prompted by Satan? The better question for that person who asked me that, why would God allow Satan to enter Judas and control and influence Judas if Judas hadn't done something blameworthy that moved God to hand him over to the devil? In other words, if God allows the Satan to take over and God hands you over to the devil, that means you've done something so grievous and sinful that God is now handing you over to the devil as part of the punishment and judgment for your wicked, evil, unrepented, sinful behavior. Because someone had asked me that question. So you see that in John 13, verse 2, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Now read for me verses 18 and 19. John 13, 18 to 19.
I'm not speaking of, I know whom I have chosen, but it filled the scripture, the one who ate my bread and has lifted his heel against me.
Yeah. Read it again because you broke up. Read 18 and 19.
No problem. I'm not speaking of all of you. I know whom I have chosen, but it is to fill the scripture, the one who ate my bread has lifted his heel against me.
Okay, so but you caught it, right? You see how, and 19 says, now I told you before it happens, and when it happens, I am he. You see all throughout the narrative, you've already been told who the betrayer is, right?
Right.
All throughout the narrative. So it's not a surprise for you that you get it. But why should we assume that the people who are there, who are not Jesus, don't know hearts, don't know what Judas is thinking, what Judas is plotting, but see Judas as one of their own? Why would it surprise you that they are shocked when Jesus says one of them would betray him, and not getting it even when Jesus gives them the bread? Because in that moment, they're in a state of shock. When you're in a state of shock, you're not giving your full undivided attention.
Yeah.
Right?
That makes a lot of sense.
But now, what does that tell you about the apostles? Notice what the implication is. Either Judas externally gave the impression of being such a devout follower of Jesus Christ that the other disciples did not even suspect him for a moment, or the other disciples were so morally compromised, like Judas, that they didn't see Judas as any worse than them. See the implication?
Yeah.
In other words, what God is showing us through Judas is that you're going to have wolves in sheep's clothing that are so convincing externally, that give such a convincing external appearance of being a Christian, that when they do fall, you are shocked. For example, let's just give a modern example because it's now public. Ravi Zacharias. Ravi Zacharias, you heard of him, right?
Right.
You see him, right? The whole evangelical world was shocked of his double life, going around, imposing himself on women, paying them for favors, threatening them. And he lived that double life for years, unbeknownst to the world, because the world saw a sheep. But there were people who knew he was a wolf in sheep's clothing, but he hid it well.
Yeah.
All right. So that's why they're shocked, the disciples, because they're seeing Judas as one of them. He's no better than us. He's no worse than us. We're all on the same level. So when he says, one of you will betray me, and I'll give, even that act of giving the bread, because they're in a state of shock. When something shocking happens, you get discombobulated and you're not giving your full attention, and you may not understand what you're seeing before you because of the shock. And that's why you see everyone, is it me? Is it me? They're freaking out, right?
Yeah, and they also probably didn't understand exactly what the exact moment of betrayal that Jesus was referring to, because they didn't necessarily expect him to be handed over to be crucified, right?
Yeah. No, they did not think Messiah was going to be killed and then rise on the third day. But the whole point is, when he says, one of you will betray me, understand, first thing was shock and fear and horror and dread. So they're not thinking about the implication. Is it me? Is it, even when he says the one I give, they're still in a state of shock. And if you've ever gone through traumatic experiences, life-changing traumatic experiences, you understand that in that moment, shock takes in. You are now discombobulated, and you're not fully aware or cognizant of your surrounding. And that's what happened to them. For their Messiah to say, when are you going to betray me? Complete shock. Their system just shut down. They were discombobulated. They were in a state of just confusion. That's why even when he gave the sign, they still didn't figure it out. That's just human behavior. That's common sense. In other words, the Bible is giving you a realistic portrayal of human experience and emotion and how human beings react at certain events, especially earth-shattering, traumatic events.
Yeah.
So that's what you're reading in John 13.
I appreciate it.
Anytime,
another, just a quick side note. That I remember reading a Thomistic commentary on when Judas received the Eucharist. Really, that's the moment that Satan had entered into him.
Yeah. Most likely, yes. I can't say no because this is taking place at the upper room where they're reclining at table, and Jesus is celebrating the Passover, and he's already told them, this bread which is broken is my body, broken for you, and this cup is the new covenant in my blood, shed for you. Right? So yeah. It's yeah. So and Judas was there, he partook of it. So it is likely that Satan was, well, not likely, you're already told Satan was already prompting him, right?
Right.
But in John 13:27, we're told he now enters him. John 13:27. Read that again.
After he received the piece of bread, or in the Douay-Rheims, I think it's like the morsel of bread.
Yes.
Satan entered into him.
See? So Satan entered when he... Now, what's interesting, if you read the verse, John 13:27, it says, what you're about to do, do quickly. Now, it's singular. If you read it in the Greek, it's singular. He's talking to one. So now the question is, who is he talking to? Judas or Satan who had entered him? That's interesting, isn't it?
That's very interesting.
Is he telling Satan, do what you're about to do quickly, or Judas? Because the word, again, you can't tell in your English, but if you read the Greek, it's singular, and the King James brings out, the Douay-Rheims brings it out because it shows you that the pronoun is singular, it's thou.
Yeah, thou, right.
What translation are you reading?
I think it's the New Revised Standard Version.
Yeah, you don't have the Douay-Rheims or the King James with you? I don't have it on me, so I can't.
I always use it online. I don't have a copy of it.
Okay, well, you can confirm. You'll see it's singular. He's speaking to one. So is he talking to Judas, or is he giving Satan permission? Go ahead and use Judas to betray me, and do it quickly. The reason why I asked the question is because the Bible is quite clear that Satan has to be given permission, authorization to do anything. Because if God doesn't authorize it, then Satan is hindered, because Satan is a finite temporal creature on God's leash. He can only do what God permits him to do. And this is confirmed in Luke 22:31-32. If you go to Luke 22:31-32, you'll see it. Here, our brother Protestant believer who's staying up late, God bless you, brother. He just posted the Douay-Rheims. Notice it. Notice the pronoun, guys. And after the morsel, Satan entered him, and Jesus said to him, that which thou, TH in Elizabethan English is singular, that which thou dost, do quickly. Thou is singular. He's talking to one. Now, if you go to Luke 22:31-32. Luke 22:31-32. See what happens there.
Let's see, 31-32.
Yep.
Simon, Simon, listen. Satan has demanded to sift all of you like wheat, but I have prayed for you that your own faith may not fail, and you, when once you have turned back, strengthen your brothers. And that's the end.
Yeah, sorry, we were buffering. Read it again. My internet was buffering. Read it one more time, brother.
Simon, Simon, listen. Satan has demanded to sift all of you like wheat, but I have prayed for you that your own faith may not fail, and you, when once you have turned back, strengthen your brothers.
Okay, notice Satan has to ask and get permission, authorization to sift you, separate the wheat from the chaff. And so the Lord's response shows that Satan has been given that authorization. But then the Lord says, I prayed for you, Simon. And now notice what the Lord did not say. But I prayed for you, Simon, if you are, when. Now notice the assurance. If Jesus is praying for you, his prayer is all powerful, It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If he's praying for you, know that his prayers are answered and they don't go unheeded. So if he prays, there's nothing more powerful in the world than the Son of God praying for you, because his prayer is answered always. So I hope that answered your question, brother.